Hello, humans. It is me, Damon Foley.
And myself, Damon Cockings. Okay, not too sure about that. Okay, guys, it is time to take a fresh look at the Ferengi Marauder.
That's right, we've taken some of our older scripts and condensed them to be more to the point. So if you want all the fun stuff with the really cool, funny intro, go back and watch the original episode on the ship, as that was a fun one to do.
But this is more just the prime and all the best graphics and all the best stars, having learned all those lessons. And here we are. The Ferengi Marauder was designed by a very good friend, Mr. Andrew Probert. And as with most of the ships we examined, there are a few size problems. We discovered sizes from 366 metres to 390 metres, all the way up to 630 metres long.
Discovery scale?
Possibly the Discovery verse version, yeah. Which, to be honest, I think to everyone sounds a bit big. The main accepted size of the ship seems to be the 366 metres. This number is reflected in many of the specifications we've discovered.
But just for fun, and because we are Trekyards after all, we decided to contact Andrew Probert himself to clear this little snag up. And he said that he initially intended to have the ship be around 1,200 feet long, which works out to 365.76 meters in length, which if you round up is 366. He also stated that he always does his measurements in feet, and they are always even numbers.
Indeed, very cool to get a little insight directly from the man himself. Working on Trekyards certainly has some perks. So guys, I'm inclined to believe the ship's designer, as well as around 90% of the other sources, so a slightly round up length of 366 meters works for us. Perhaps the other measurements were for different ships in the Ferengi fleet. People just got confused as to what the Marauder actually is. And there could be a good reason for that, and we'll get into that soon. But anyway, the ship has 33 decks and a crew of 450 male crew members, as women were not allowed on Ferengi ships in any official capacity, or at least in the pre-Grand Nagus Rom era. We'll see in the post-Voyager shows.
Any official capacity.
Yes.
The ship's maximum speed was about 9.6, with a standard cruising speed of warp 7. Now, it has been speculated that the Ferengi, in fact, purchased their warp technology rather cheaply from a more advanced race, as yet unnamed, but it is strongly believed to have been the Breen, due in large part to the book Legends of the Ferengi, authored by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. However, this is not official canon, but it does make for a very excellent read, and considering that Ira Stephen Bear was responsible for DS9, I consider it better than side canon.
If it's the brainchild of the guy that made the Bible, I mean, yeah, the ideas came from somewhere and had some good validity. But this is a interesting bit. The vessel is referred to by several different classifications, including warship, armoured transport, by the Federation at least, and attack vessel by the Ferengi themselves. Quite a little bit different there. However, its primary function was as a trade vessel. Very multi-purpose, apparently. During the early 2360s, Starfleet had almost no specific data on the Decorer, with the first contact of this vessel happening in the TNG episode Last Outpost in 2364.
Upon first seeing this ship, Captain Picard stated that it was a most impressive design. Then, by the time of the movie First Contact, Starfleet possessed a general knowledge of Ferengi technology, and it was estimated to be generally equal to, but not identical to, Federation tech.
This specific design was also known as the Decorer class. The ship class meant the majority of the Ferengi fleet. And it seemed early on that the term Marauder was a collective term for any of the larger Ferengi type designs, but in fact the term Marauder itself was never actually said in TNG.
Marauder was actually first mentioned by Nog in the DS9 episode Little Green Men, when he refers to them as Marauder-class cruisers. And in the Voyager episode Inside Man, there is an LCARS display which shows the ship with the designation Decorer-class Marauder.
So it's a Marauder-class, Dakir type attack, battle, trade, warship.
Yep.
Okay.
Glad we got that cleared up.
I think so. Okay, so let's move on to weapons, shall we? The armaments of this vessel included torpedo launchers, as well as older style missile launchers, also armed with directed energy weapons, which were also referred to as plasma emitters or directed shock emitters, which might imply that multiple variations of the ship exist, like, the Damon customized, which I think would make a lot of sense, or just they name things as we said before, lots of different names.
Yeah. Well, it's probably styled like the Bird of Prey and things. The Klingon commanders each do their own modifications to it. Makes sense for the Ferengi.
Yeah.
There's also an aft electromagnetic pulse weapon, which was frequently used to damage or slow down an enemy as the Ferengi retreated as they often ran away from many of their encounters.
The plasma emitters were located in the claws or pincers at the front of the ship, and the directed shock emitters are actually the orange glowing things we see at the very front of the ship.
The torpedo and more primitive missile launchers located at the top center portion of the ship were housed in a retractable weapons turret directly in front of the main bridge module.
The very unique electromagnetic pulse weapon was emitted from the rear of the craft and was detectable by a marked power surge just prior to discharge.
The resulting electromagnetic pulse was capable of weakening the shields of a Galaxy-class vessel, as well as depleting fusion generators and batteries by as much as 30% in a single burst.
And that's pretty impressive. I wonder which alien race they bought that technology off. Perhaps the Breen, again, honestly, since we own DS9, they have those advanced energy-dampening weapons. Seems more than likely they could have got them from the Breen, since also the neighbouring races. It all comes together, Stuart.
In cases where the Marauder's Damon was forced to surrender, the ship would extend its neck and open or lower all ship weapon ports, such as the lower claw-like emitters, as well as expose other sensitive areas.
But this posture was also sometimes viewed as a preparation to attack.
A little bit of a cultural difference there, I think.
Yeah,
Probably caused a lot of problems.
And this was only seen once in the original appearance of Lost Outpost in TNG, when they actually surrendered to the Enterprise. But it's that classic Babylon 5 thing of it. You can start a war with a single misinterpretation.
Yep. Things are moving. They're going to attack.
Yeah.
The physical model did indeed have articulation for this feature, but doing so broke some of the interior neon lighting effects and was barely even seen working in the episode. For all future appearances of this model, this feature was never used again.
Kind of like the Bird of Prey, which can do all the different configurations and then...
Until it can't.
Until it can't. Yeah. The ship was also designed with a lower visible boarding ramp, as well as a small auxiliary craft, very similar to Voyager's unused Aero Shuttle Enterprise captain's yacht. Wow, all the secondary craft, all unused. Brilliant. This could, of course, be seen on the underside of the ship, but was never used, and very little is actually known about this ship's capabilities. But what we did learn about it was that it's 88 meters in length, and it was actually a drop ship named the Spirit Opportunity.
It seems in later years that the Decora was not only used by the main Ferengi military, but also Ferengi liquidators and privateers as well. This was due to the many different configurations that were possible for this space frame. As we talked about earlier, all the different names it had: warship, cargo ship. As it was relatively easy to mount phasers, disruptors, as well as even strong torpedo-based weapons without much modification to the mounting points.
And it's one of those classic situations of we have the physical miniature. Let's use it for every single ship. So
there is that, yes.
Yeah. But that's okay. It's great design, so it worked just fine. As with many of these privateers, the main job of the Damon was to acquire as much profit and wealth for himself and his crew as possible. If he failed to do so, then he would almost certainly be removed from command, as that is sort of the point. While this acquisition of wealth, by any means necessary, whether officially sanctioned by the French government body, it was known to happen sometimes by rather unscrupulous means, and a blind eye was usually turned in that direction by Ferengi military officers, assuming their bribes were substantial enough.
However, if an official complaint was made to the Ferengi government by another large governing body, such as, let's say, the Federation, the Damon was indeed investigated and sometimes removed from his position and left to recover from his very public disgrace. This, of course, prevented the Ferengi from stepping on the wrong toes, so to speak, and getting involved in any major conflicts, which, of course, is best for business after all. Better to be on relatively good terms with everyone, and then you can go virtually unnoticed.
Makes sense to me. The bridge has an isolated, centrally located chair for the Damon, which emphasises his utter, supreme importance. In fact, it was the only chair located on the bridge, and it only controls for communication.
The bridge was also much more compact than Federation-style bridges and had fewer permanent crew. Only 5 separate and distinct stations were present, with the forward 2 duty stations generally unmanned, or unferengied, if you will.
Nice. It just occurred to me that, obviously the bridge was smaller because cheaper to, redress a little bridge module, but the ship needs to have as much storage space as possible for the loot. So yeah, why would they need something? It's so functional. I mean, almost a shuttle interior would be fine, because if you can have an extra, 10 meters of storage space for gold, press Latinum, why not? Yeah. The main control was a dome-like interface located directly behind the Damon's chair, and could accommodate up to 3 persons. Two larger stations also flanked the main bridge door, which was usually locked.
The ship routinely carried at least 2 small shuttlecraft known as Entrepreneur's Treasure warp shuttles. These were large enough to accommodate 5 to 6 passengers and were similar in size and performance to smaller Federation personnel shuttles. We see one like this as Quark's personal shuttle in the DS9 episode Little Green Men, named Quark's Treasure.
Nice. I do like that. If that's what Entrepreneur's Treasure is the class, we have Type 7, Type 8, Type 9, and they have Entrepreneur's Treasure type. Much cooler, much more original,
Yeah, it's like insert name here for Quark's Treasure. So whoever owns the ship puts their name.
Like a deed to the ship. Put your name and then... Yeah. The standard core also carried a few smaller 2-3 person pods called pods of acquisition. These pods were bug-like in appearance with earwig-type pincers at the front.
Since the Decora's primary use was a trade vessel,
or military, or attack, or mostly trade.
I said primary use. It did contain a number of larger cargo areas and numerous tractor beam emitters used in the salvage of derelict vessels.
The ship's overall design was inspired by a horseshoe crab and an earwig, and was the very first of all the new alien ships we ever saw in TNG. Andrew Probert wanted the ship to look threatening and fairly dangerous, with the front claws being designed to look like pincers, similar to those of the earwig.
The physical model was built by Greg Jean and incorporated various railroad model parts and some pinstriping tape to add detail to the hull. As mentioned earlier, this model articulated to show the surrender posture, but this feature was only used once.
In its last appearance in Voyager, a new CG version was built by Brandon McDougall for the Season 7 episode Inside Man. The original physical model was sent to his office, which he used to make an accurate version of the ship in Lightwave. Because it was all CG, he went ahead and actually added more weathering to this version to give it a more unique feel than the other identical Marauders we'd seen in the other shows. This is the model we've used for this episode of Trekyards, so thank you, Brandon.
So what did you think of this ship when you first saw the Ferengi class Marauder? I was underwhelmed, to be honest.
Well, it's a nice alien. It could mean anything. It could be anything. It has a very consistent design philosophy. It implies more that meets the eye. Although it's always a bit strange that the Ferengi were designed at the start to be the next big threat, and so it's sort of aggressive, but it's so curvy that it doesn't necessarily have that really aggressive feel, and so as a warship, I don't think it works particularly well. Although, as a raw platformed weapon, that's fine, but it's as opposed to like the Derridex, which comes in, it's like, yeah, that is a killer ship. This never quite got that effect. I don't know if it's it's got a big fat back end, and the shapes don't quite equate to a battleship, but certainly as we see the Ferengi later, I think it works great as that ship.
I think the way Andrew designed it was actually impressive to a point, because when you see it from the front, it does have that front module which looks kind of aggressive, and then the pincers, which again look aggressive, but the back, as you said, does not look intimidating at all. That's because usually they're retreating at that point, so you don't want your back of your ship to look like it's going to attack, even though they do have that rear-facing energy dampening weapons. So it's actually pretty interesting, because you don't want people to take off after you thinking that you're an aggressive. So to have that rear look a little bit different, that's actually kind of genius when you think about it. So,
well, not just that, but that's also where the cargo spaces are. And if they do a lot of retreating, just by they still went poorly, we're going to retreat. Then having the back bit have so much physical armor to not only protect a retreat but also the cargo. Then having the tactical stuff at the front and the armored section on the back works very well for me. And just it feels like there's a lot of storage space in that. It feels very good for that.
Yeah. The surrender mode to me is kind of interesting, because like we kind of discussed, some cultures could see that as preemptive to attack, and it would kind of negate the purpose of the surrender mode.
And there are easier ways, like powering down weapons.
I think that was probably part of it as well. Power down the weapons and then expose the weapon bits, so that if the enemy wants to attack, there's the points to hit. But it would come across to certain races, certain cultures totally differently than I think the Ferengi intended. So I just found that very interesting. But it was cool to see it do it that once. I'm just saying.
Oh, it's
first to see more.
Its first appearance certainly has a certain je ne sais quoi to it. But it's I think it got some good time in the show. It's certainly distinct. I mean, all the TNG season one sort of primary aliens and even like the Vorcharan stuff, they're all pretty definitive for the show. They had a great art team delivering very interesting ships. If you look at the alien races, they are pretty, especially with Andrews in charge. They're all very distinct. Even his the other ship with that ball in the middle, the warp ball that Gene, they're very unique design as well. So they certainly had those designs done well, and it's a cool ship. Although it would have been nice to have seen, if it was 10 years later, VFX was the primary, and so you could have had a modified version each time. Just looking at the design, instantly have different pincers in the size, different weapons. You have cargo module points in the front part of the back bit that could be opened up and add different components in to be more visible weapons or more visible shuttle bays. It seems like such a useful blank canvas of a ship that seeing the identical miniature for 15 years, wasn't its full potential, especially as the purpose of it kept changing. It would have been nice to have seen, it could easily have been changed to be like a trader ship and different variations and as Damon's sort of modify it. Would have been cool.
It would have indeed. What do you guys think about this ship? Do you like this design? What are your thoughts on its surrender position or its changing role in the fleet or in the show anyway? Put your comments down below. We always love hearing them. And we definitely look forward to engaging with you guys. I mean, you can do so on social media. We have a Facebook page. We have a Discord. All the relative links are down below. And of course, as always, like, subscribe, and hit the notification icon because that's all important.
And of course, support on Patreon, the monthly donation service that helps us and this channel grow, develop, and just honestly keep going. Because without that, we can't keep going. It's pretty straightforward. So support us there, or one-time donation at trekyards.com. Any 2, 3, 5, 10, 100, 20, 100, between 20 and 100, whatever, helps, because we put that towards our Droid bank account, and we can then do things like trips and events and cool things and just kill upgrades. Always important. Or join our weekly live chats where we talk to the audience. The general audience, such as the Trekyards hardcore followers, you know who you are, and we love you all, about any topic from Discovery to ships like this to more different things. That's always fun. And join us then and support us via super chatting as well. Mega useful. And also the free ways, as Stuart already said. So all the ways and all the fun things.
I'm kind of disappointed though, because that was the perfect acquisition of wealth speech you could have done. You could have thrown some stuff in there, you go press Latinum or whatever. But yeah, guys, I guess if you want to compare us to Ferengi, help us out in those ways as well. Plus, there's a Teespring store, very important. Go buy some merch.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, acquire yourself some cool stuff. Anyway, guys, until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I am Commander Coggins.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.